Good morning, it's Trisha with EasyEminiTrade.com, and I want to go over Monday the 1st and Tuesday the 2nd. And if you'd like more information on the setups, you can go to www.easyeminitrade.com. And if you do happen to get the setups, you will be invited into the education chat room for 3 days for free, so that will help with the recognition of the setups, as well as give you the opportunity to ask me questions that you might have. So with that said, let's get going. So this is Monday the 1st, and we are willing to take a setup in the first few minutes without regard to any reference areas of support or resistance. So we get closed outside the channel on the opening bar. Everything's in line to take it, so we take it, and it works out just fine. And that was, like I said, after the 9:30 bar. Next opportunity was here, and that was actually after the 10:05 bar. Now, what we did was I actually waited until above the high of this bar here, because after this bar, this was a pretty large bar, and we had a little bit of space between us and the channel, so I wanted to wait for it to hopefully pull back almost to the channel, and it did. So this is actually where we got in here after the 10:08 bar got filled here, and that one worked out just as well. And this was in the afternoon. Well, actually before lunch, excuse me. It was at 11:10, and this is a perfect example of where the tick comes in play and can be helpful. And this is the tick, and I like it because it helps me to manage a trade when I'm in it and it's going nowhere, or it helps keep me out of trades when we get a tick extreme. Now, oftentimes when we get a tick extreme, we're already in the trade, and that's great because oftentimes we can ride the momentum on that initial extreme, and we're already profitable, and we move our stop to our entry. So if we get a pullback after the extreme, then no big deal, we're already profitable. But we will not enter, or we try not to enter, I should say, on a tick extreme. So for example, we were willing to get in this trade right here, and this was at 11:09. This is the 11:09 bar, and I was not paying attention, and this is just a perfect example of the tick extreme. We get a tick extreme right here. An extreme, realistically, to me, is from 700 to 1,000 or more, plus or minus. And so here we get a 900 and something reading, and was not paying attention, and that was on this bar. So I had no reason to take this trade. I should have not taken it. So obviously it got stopped out, but every now and then you need reminded of why you have your rules, and I have no idea why I didn't notice this. I do have alerts set on my extremes, so I don't know if I was just not paying attention and didn't hear it, but regardless, I got in, and unfortunately then noticed that we had a tick extreme, so was stopped out. But that's where that comes in handy, because oftentimes what will happen is when your tick is just going neutral, let's say between plus and minus 600, and this is the zero line here, just kind of being neutral all day long, or even spending a lot of time above zero but not really giving you any extremes, and then all of a sudden you get an extreme kind of thrown in the mix. Typically you're going to get a pullback in price. If it was a minus tick extreme, then you'd wind up getting a bounce in price. So not what you want to get when you're sitting there in a long, or looking to just get in a long, and then you get in after a tick extreme, because then you're going to have to sit through the pullback and obviously run the risk of being stopped out. So I just wanted to point that out, and like I said, I really should never have taken that trade. And yesterday, Tuesday, was pretty quiet. You could have done some range trades, but overall it was pretty quiet. And I forgot to mention the trades that I just showed you for Monday were on the NQ. Interestingly enough, there would have only been one of those set up that occurred on the ES. So again, NQ provided more opportunities, so we take them. And this is yesterday, Tuesday, and it was really quiet, and we do get a close outside the channel here. Our indicator not quite in line yet. Our indicator does get in line on these bars here. I was just not interested in it because the volume was really light, and was just not convinced that I was ready to get sucked into a trade. Was willing to wait for it to go and then take the opportunity to get on if allowed. But obviously you can see that it worked out. But you can see the bars are very small. And again, this is the NQ. And the ES was just the same. There's just not a lot of volume going on yesterday afternoon during lunch or just coming back from lunch. So again, nothing I was interested in doing, but you can see that it did work out. And this trade was at 254, and again on the NQ. We did get a close outside the channel here, but we are just above the 50% retracement and an area of support. So not interested in taking anything until we can get through that, get closed underneath it. And we do, we get closed underneath it. Indicator is where we want it to be. So we enter in under these bars, get filled. Takes forever, bounce around for a while, never gets stopped out. So depending on how you managed it, you could have gotten a small profit here, basically a point, and obviously sitting through this, you would have gotten your targets of 2 and 4. So all depends on how you managed it. And of course, this was after 3:30 by the time this actually did finally drop, but it took forever, but it did finally work out. So I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, you can shoot me an email, and you can check out the setups at www.easyeMinitrade.com.